second edition of Rockies Singery, the Tulo edition, number 2, of course. I'm Trevor McKinney. To my left.
Hi, Trevor.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no,
Are we still doing that?
No.
Okay.
I mean, everyone knows that we're rockaholics, right? And that there's nothing that we can do to get over that.
It's like being a chocoholic, except there's no reward. It's just misery. Or are there?
Purple. Anyway, to my left.
I am Marco Mamelin.
And to my right.
I am Jake Shapiro, writer for ESPN Sweet Spot Blog Network, Rockies Singers. Or Rockies Zingers.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Rough.
Ooh,
Rough start.
Yeah, it was that root beer. Literally.
But unlike our rough start, our team is off to a pretty good start so far. I think the highlights of the season, at least my favorite, are Cargo's bomb in Milwaukee. Something like 460 feet, something like that.
It's still going.
They did not get that accurately.
No, there's no
reported.
way they could.
Yeah. They should maybe ask the light bulb that got smashed in the scoreboard what the speed was.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
And then the other one, of course, was Nolan's catch in San Francisco. That had shades of Willie Mays and Derek Jeter and just a bunch of stuff just right into one.
David Wright a little bit, too, from back in the day when he could tend that third base.
Good throwback. Yeah, I think that out of those two plays, I mean, I'm always impartial to the bombs, and Cargo's just is still going. And I love it so much, but
you're the biggest Nolan fan in the world.
yeah,
so.
and like just the shades of Brooks Robinson coming out in Nolan right now.
He's gonna get paid big time.
Oh,
Scott Boras.
Yeah. I think it's scary to think that at this point we're 8-9 games into the season. And we already have possibly seen the greatest home run of the season and the greatest defensive play of the season. Arguably, maybe in the entire baseball.
Yeah, baseball's boring. Let's stop watching now.
Yeah. It's all hockey time, right?
It topped out. We topped out of the season already. I mean, we've won, 6 road games? That's as many road games as we've won. Last year, we won 6 road games after June 17th.
But not to mention that we just won those games. We swept 2 series on the road.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's 6-0
against the defending World Series champions too,
and a very good Brewers team from last year.
Yes.
We're not sweeping, the Diamondbacks and the. I was gonna say Padres, but they're actually good now.
Speaking of the Padres, after we go to LA and face the Dodgers and Clayton Kershaw, Greinke, and McCarthy. We come back to Colorado to play the Padres in San Francisco in the first real homestand of the season, so looking forward to that. But right now we're going to transition back to the opening series in Milwaukee and kind of overlook what that series was about and what we did in Denver against the Cubs, and then the wrap-up of the series against San Francisco.
Which just ended literally 15 minutes ago because we're shooting this on Wednesday, April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day at about 11:45 at night. So,
yeah, it'll be April 16th in a little bit.
By the end of this episode.
Right.
We're living in the twilight zone.
My 8 a.m. is going to be rough tomorrow.
Ooh, college students, man.
Yeah.
Rally time.
Anyway, so Milwaukee. I think that we can all take away from this is the just overall great play that we had. Mostly characterized by the strong offensive performances and then being backed up by pretty good pitching. I think that Kyle Kendrick really set the tone on opening day, pitching a shutout through 7.
Come on. We all hear from the newspapers, oh, Kyle Kendrick's your opening day starter. What the heck are you guys going to do? Kyle Kendrick. Come out on fire to start the season. That was awesome. Kyle Kendrick really set the tone for that series.
Yeah, I was surprised that pretty much all the optimistic things that people said about the Rockies coming into the season ended up actually coming to fruition in that first series. We see Kendrick pitching really well. We see the entire Rockies team just crushing the ball. I mean, it was pretty nice. Obviously, at this point, the only way to go is probably down. I hope I don't want to say that.
We haven't gone down yet.
Right. All right. Yeah, I shouldn't count my chickens yet. So keep my mouth shut. But I don't know. It was really nice to see that we had a really good start to the year, and hopefully we can continue that.
Yeah, and I think it's really key to the team that we found different ways to win in that opening series. I mean, you could argue that the first game we won it with offense just scoring 10 runs.
We ran away with that.
Yeah,
one.
and then you could attribute it to Kyle too, pitching 7 shutout innings and then the bullpen keeping it. But
yeah, and Kyle Kendrick, Drew Kreisman talked about this from Purple Row. Kyle Kendrick's not going to be the guy that throws a no-hitter like Kershaw. He's not going to be the guy that strikes out 12 in a game. He's going to keep you in games for the most part, and that's what we want out of this starting pitching. Is we want just guys that are going to battle through, get you some innings, get into the Rockies bullpen, which has been very good, and we'll talk about that. But we just want the Rockies starters to keep the Rockies in the game long enough because we know their hitters are going to hit the ball. They've had, I think, at least 4 runs in every single game. I might, yesterday in San Francisco Tuesday, they might have had less. I think they only scored 3.
But we still won the game.
Right.
And that was all we needed.
And
it's in San Fran too.
Right. So you look at the Rockies hitters, and they're going to keep you. They're gonna produce enough runs where if the pitchers are just decent compared to every other pitcher in baseball, the Rockies are going to win a lot of games that way.
Yeah, and when you look at it, you have decent starting pitchers that keep you in the game, and then a really solid bullpen. You could really have a lot of games coming down in the very end of the games, and it'd be very similar to what we had last year with the Kansas City Royals when they were just dominant in the bullpen. Obviously, we don't have quite the caliber of bullpen pitching as let's say the Royals did, but I'd like to see something of that similar nature.
Well, you look at the names in the bullpen, and the bullpen seems very, very good. And I guess should we hold off on this, Mr. Host Trevor McKinney?
Yeah, you know what? Let's hold off for a while. We'll get back to it. But I mean, we'll still stick to it a little bit because I want to go back to the Cubs series, which was pretty much defined by LaTroy Hawkins just blowing 2 games.
Well, the last game was in the Brewers series, but it really was the culmination of that was in the Cubs series. And you look at the from the end of the Brewers series, the Rockies found a lot of different ways to score runs. And one of the things they did great was after LaTroy blew that save in Milwaukee, they came back, battled back, and won that game immediately. It wasn't a long, drawn-out thing. And LaTroy blew that game in Colorado. That's the only game I've been at. Praise my 2-22 record at the last 24 Rockies games I've been at. But LaTroy blows that game on Sunday, and Dexter Fowler, of course, former Rocky, hits that home run off of him. And we couldn't battle back in that one and win it. We ended up losing that series because of that. But you think of LaTroy, and he's a veteran. He's going to handle it great. And he's gotten 2 bad appearances to start the year, and he's had more after that. But 2 bad appearances as the closer. But I think he'll bounce back eventually.
Yeah, I mean, he's a veteran guy. He's been in this situation hundreds of times before, and they interviewed him after the game and when he was demoted, and he didn't seem like it bothered him at all. He said, "I'll be back there." As he's done this before, so yeah, that's what I want to see out of a guy like that. He knows he's screwed up. He doesn't want to make that mistake again. He knows what he needs to do to improve.
And I think that we can all say that he's the classic veteran guy who wants to win. And I think that that's what the team needs, for one. I mean, we need the Justin Morneaus, we need the Todd Heltons, we need the, dare I say it, LaTroy Hawkins, who want to win more than anything. And that's the goal. And if that means they take a lesser role on the team, so be it.
And they've been there and they've had success at this level. That's something so important, and that's one of the reasons why they brought in Daniel Descalso. I'm not a big Daniel Descalso guy. He might end up being one of my least favorite Rockies of all time. But you see the mindset with that type of move. They're bringing in guys to teach, an Adam Ottavino, how to get guys out in certain situations, because LaTroy's been doing it for 20 years.
Yeah, I don't really want to go back to this, but you did mention that there was a chance he could be one of your that Descalso could be one of your least favorite Rockies. It's a tough list to live up to when you got Brian Fuentes and like Joe Beimel, and I would put on there Houston Street.
You're just putting bullpen guys.
I'm putting in guys that have truly.
But look at that. Look at the notice there.
Guys,
Daniel Descalso wasn't a bullpen guy.
All right, now you got me trying to think of an infielder or just an offensive player that I didn't like.
Think of like catchers, because the catchers.
Oh, I was not a fan of Chris Iannetta.
Oh, I'm not a fan of Chris Iannetta either. Todd Green, oh my gosh, I wish that we could just...
Who was here before Mark Ellis? Because I really liked Mark Ellis, but there was someone before that was just awful. And it wasn't Barmas, because I liked Barmas too.
Barmas was never a catcher.
I'm talking about second baseman, because I said Mark Ellis. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, there was Jamie Carroll, who I'd never
I
really
like
liked,
Jamie
except
Carroll.
he came through for us. So
Yeah, he was a
yeah.
clutch guy.
Plus, so scrappy.
Jordan Pacheco's like borderline least favorite Rockies for me.
Oh my gosh!
And he kind of counts as both dual
He's third base and catcher.
He counts for every position.
Right. Dude almost led the league in batting one year, which is crazy. That's the Coors Field effect right there.
Yeah, we got way off topic. Sorry about
that.
Yeah,
going back to the pitching, before we move on past the Cubs into the Giants, I wanted to talk about the feeling that we got when Kyle Kendrick got absolutely rocked for, I think it was 8 earned runs against the Cubs. And
in his Rockies home debut,
right,
of course.
And I think that
even the Avs won that night.
Who cares?
Well, I was there, so
Yeah, he got blown up, and statistically, we knew coming in here that Kyle Kendrick is arguably the worst pitcher in all baseball at Coors Field.
Yeah.
So the question has to be asked. I mean, do we maybe just pitch this guy on the road? I mean, he had a great start at Miller Park.
Yeah, keep Jorge only pitching here and Kyle on the road. I think it's a good point to make.
Yeah, well, Fangraphs had a really interesting article about this coming into the season about how you would do that with Jorge De La Rosa and Kyle Kendrick. And basically, you would need only a 5-man rotation with how the Rockies' off days are structured this year. And you would need a 6th starter for about 8 games. And the only time there would be a 3-day start or start on 3 days rest would be Jorge De La Rosa the day before the All-Star break, the way they did it. So he'd have plenty of time to recover. However, Jorge De La Rosa is still not even in the bigs yet. He had a couple injury spot starts down in Albuquerque to get him ready. Hopefully we'll see him soon. But this is a discussion to have, I think, big picture. And the way the Rockies are kind of thinking, I wouldn't be so surprised to see them do something unique.
Yeah, and I think that the feeling that we're getting from the pitching staff right now is let's see what works before we try anything too drastic. And right now, I mean, granted, it's only been 1 start, but Kyle Kendrick isn't really working at Coors. I mean, that's baseball. We can't change baseball that drastically.
I wouldn't go out there that so far yet. I'd hold off on that, because if Kyle Kendrick only allows up 5 earned runs in that Coors Field start, that's actually pretty successful.
He's doing what we need him to do is keep us in the game.
Yeah.
Right.
But a few more starts like this, and I would definitely agree with Trevor that we maybe just might decide to take a little more.
You have some time to play around with some things, but the way the Rockies are trending right now is it looks like they might actually end up being a borderline wildcard team, which means they wouldn't. But the way we're thinking big picture is you should have some time to play around with some things, and they didn't get Kyle Kendrick as the last piece of the puzzle. They got Kyle Kendrick to eat innings. Kyle Kendrick isn't the guy that's going to go win a Cy Young, and he's not going to be your 2 or 3 starter on a team that makes the playoffs. Kyle Kendrick's the guy that they want just to eat 200 innings until John Gray and Eddie Butler are completely ready, and Kyle Freeland's up here, and Tyler Anderson, and XYZ. So they just need Kyle Kendrick to be okay. They need him to be allow 5 runs at Coors Field and pitch 6 innings.
Yeah, and I think that just the overall feeling is it's different, because we had this perception that Kyle Kendrick is going to be that number 1 guy who could throw a no-hitter every once in a while, at least to the I don't want to say layman fan, but just the average guy.
When you put a guy as your ace on the staff, as your starting opening day pitcher, I mean, you were kind of labeling him as the best pitcher you have. Obviously, we know that's not the case, but as you said, to someone outsider looking in, they're going to think that way.
Especially
I would think that's not the case, and you're looking at that just as this. The Rockies haven't brought in a free agent starter in a long time, and Kyle Kendrick was that. So when people thought Kyle Kendrick was coming in here, they're like, oh, we have they're bringing in an ace, and Kyle Kendrick's the ace. That's not the way the Rockies were thinking about it. I just said the Rockies were bringing in an innings eater. And when they went out and started him at Milwaukee, they knew he was better on the road, so they put him in a better situation for him. However, you can argue that if they started him that 3rd game on the road, he wouldn't even have had to start against the Cubs. But I think they were just trying to get an experienced pitcher pitching on opening day, because the other 2 guys that pitched that series was Jordan Lyles and Eddie Butler. Jordan Lyles is still pretty relatively young, and Eddie Butler's in his the 2nd or 3rd start.
Rookie. Yeah, exactly. 2nd or 3rd start. He's not even a rookie yet. If
he went down to the minors right now and played next year, he wouldn't have enough service time. He would qualify next year as a rookie.
Exactly.
Which hopefully that doesn't happen.
All right, so Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna. Speaking of Butler, while he didn't have the most dazzling start in Milwaukee, or when he pitched here, I would like to say that he was better than average. I mean, he
Better than I
walked,
expected.
exactly. He walked some batters. He wasn't that guy that we're thinking is like the savior that he's supposed to be. But he pitched pretty well. He didn't allow a run in his last start when he actually walked 5. First time any Rocky had done that since Ubaldo when he threw his no-hitter in 2010, I believe. So, it was a little interesting and unique, but I'm excited to see what he has to offer.
And now transitioning to the San Francisco series where we swept the Giants. First time San Francisco's been swept at a home opener since 2000 against the Dodgers, so that's pretty big.
Especially when they've won 3 World Series in the past decade.
I mean, granted, it is an odd-numbered year, but still, I like to count the small miracles.
You know what's a big key to that? And we play San Francisco coming up again in next weekend, not this weekend, the next one. And then possibly this will happen in late May when we play San Francisco. Hunter Pence isn't available right now. And that San Francisco offense was anemic. I mean, our pitching has been good, but it's not that good where we can let San Francisco score. What? They scored 4 runs the entire series or something like that. That their offense is anemic right now, and the Rockies are catching some luck by catching San Francisco without Hunter Pence.
I completely agree. Yeah, without Hunter Pence, it's literally Buster Posey and the Giants pitchers versus the Rockies.
Who is that dude that hit a home run tonight?
I don't even know.
Who was that?
He had a name. Oh, Duffy. I thought he was
Duffy,
Danny.
yes,
I thought he was Danny Duffy from the Royals. When I saw like the ticker go by that said Duffy hit a home run, I was very confused.
They're already to the stage like we get in July where we're just throwing random players in there.
Yeah, except they happen to do it on Jackie Robinson Day when we can't tell any player apart because they all had the same number.
Why is everyone wearing 42? Oblivious Twitter guy says.
Yeah. Especially without their names on the back too. It's just like
at San Francisco, those jerseys normally don't have names.
Oh,
on
I knew
back,
that.
so
Yeah, but the Rockies obviously don't.
Right.
And
because you know why? You know why that San Francisco does that? Because the Yankees do that. And you know why the Yankees do that? Because you should know a Yankees ball player when you see him. You shouldn't need to know their name. The Rockies, I guess you need to know their name because you don't know a Rockies ball player.
Yeah, multiple times tonight I thought Corey Dickerson might have been Troy Tulowitzki. I couldn't tell.
Honestly, I don't know half of the people on our team anyway, so why am I doing this?
Ben Folson.
Yeah, he's on the 40-man. I had no idea.
What do you know?
But one hallmark from this San Francisco series that I really liked that Jake brought up earlier was how we won games just playing grinding good baseball, and that we knew that we were not going to score a lot of runs, that it's San Francisco, so the hitting just wasn't going to quite be what we wanted it to, but we just stuck it out and pitched what we could and got the runs.
Each win was won in a completely unique way. I mean, we as you said, we grounded out and we did things that you wouldn't be able to do, or you wouldn't have to do in Coors Field because we have the altitude to deal with. So it's good to see that, especially on the road, that we can come out and shut down a good team on the road, and then also come up with the points that we need to win these close games. Hopefully we can keep it up.
I tweeted this out, I think on Monday or Tuesday. Tuesday, the opening of the series. Monday, one of those days. In the early part of the series. And I said, the Rockies have been talking about for years how they need to execute on the road and play small ball. They've done that beautifully in this series. They executed, they played small ball, and that's what they need to do if they want to win on the road. Because you look at the Rockies, and they historically bat, 230, 240 on the road compared to 270, 280 at Coors. It's a ridiculous split, and you're going to score a lot less runs if you're getting a lot less hits, and you're going to need to hit behind, you're going to need to bunt guys over. And the Rockies executed, for the most part, very well in this series.
And I think it's also good to note that we will always have those home run bats like Nolan tonight hitting the 3-run jack, and Cargo in Milwaukee who can,
send one.
We won a game like that. Dickerson, Cargo, and Willeen with home runs in that game in Milwaukee.
Exactly.
That's how we won that game.
Exactly. So I think it's nice that we have that extra small ball effect to our normal hitting tendencies.
Something we definitely haven't seen in the past couple of years.
Exactly. Another thing we have not seen very much in the past is good closing from the Colorado Rockies. And my
With the
dad,
exception of last year.
kind of, yeah.
I
Like,
mean, considering they
you have
had
to
to live
be
up to
ahead.
Brian Fuentes and
Yeah.
all those players I mentioned
Wait,
before.
which one of us last podcast predicted LaTroy Hawkins would not blow a save this year?
Yeah, I will take the blame for that. I texted him as soon as he blew his first save. I was like, well, that was a very bold and not really, not
Good statement to
Yeah,
make,
exactly.
yes.
It was ridiculous. Now that I look back, I should have said that Ottavino maybe would not blow a
The
save.
hindsight bias, right? Trevor, psychology majors right here.
It's always tricky to think about that. But this part of the podcast, a special shout out to my dad because he specifically called me multiple times this week, telling me that we needed to talk about the closing situation. He wanted to put in his vote for Adam Ottavino, just like Walt Weiss, who was quoted as saying, Adam Ottavino has closer stuff. And my response to that is, then why the hell wasn't he the closer to begin with? Because I've never particularly been a fan of LaTroy Hawkins. I know that you guys have different views, but it's interesting to see what we're going to do. Jake had an interesting take on what the Rockies will do with that.
Well, you look at last year. Start off with last year. It was Rex Brothers' job coming into the year. Rex Brothers lost that pretty quickly. So LaTroy took the job over. And it was the same situation coming into this year. LaTroy, it was his job to lose. But you look at Walt Weiss, and this is where it all stems from. Walt Weiss has completely changed his philosophy, and maybe he's not changing his philosophy as so much as his boss has changed his philosophy and has allowed Walt Weiss to do what he wants. Walt Weiss and the Rockies organization are making quick moves this year. They're brash, they're bold, and they do it right away. As soon as they see something, they're making the move. The shifts, cutting Chassin, letting LaTroy stop being the closer, adding someone else. They didn't even make Adam Ottavino the closer right away. They said Rafael Betancourt was going to be, kind of his closer by committee. And then they realized Ottavino is the guy, and they made it right away. They didn't wait. They've been making these decisions right away. And LaTroy, I think they went with the vet, and they were, kind of thinking LaTroy was good last year. He was very good. He was 36 of 39, something like that, in closing opportunities. And it was his job to lose. You know what? He allowed 2 runs in Milwaukee, earned runs. He allowed 2 earned runs in the Chicago series, blew both games. The Rockies came back and won them. And the entire bullpen, besides LaTroy, hadn't allowed an earned run until tonight.
Until that Duffy home run, yeah.
Right. So you look elsewhere, and the other options are Rafael Betancourt, who has closing experience, who's really good.
Yeah.
Well, he is now, and it's so good to see Rafi back. I love Rafi. I always have.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't age by each time he pitches, I'm totally cool.
Yeah, right. You can see him age as he pitches.
Yeah.
John Oxford, who's one of the best closers in baseball recently, but he's on a list. I forgot what the name of it because of his kid is in the hospital with a snake bite, and we really hope he does well because that seems scary as all can be.
Update is his son is doing much better.
And I think they actually flew his son up here so that he can be closer to his dad, which is really nice.
Cool.
Yeah,
because I knew he flew down there on the off day, and that's why they gave him the rest off. And that's why Olberg's on the roster right now, who got the win last night. Pitcher wins, yay! And then you have
pitch 1 inning and win. It totally means a lot.
And then you finally have Adam Ottavino, who has the closer stuff. He's the guy, and we just watched him. And Adam Ottavino, every time he pitches, I need a new pair of underwear. He is just so dirty. And it's unbelievable. As a guy who's pitched at high school ball and stuff, what he does to the baseball is not fair.
Yeah.
I just have no idea what he's doing or how he's doing it. He has like 3 or 4 different ways to throw a slider. He's got a wipeout. He's got a backdoor. He goes 12-6 with a slider. It doesn't make any sense. It's incredible. So putting Adam Ottavino as the closer is really good if you want to think traditionally because he's your best pitcher in the bullpen. However, I'm not a traditionalist. I'm a sabermetrician. And the way I think of it is I want Adam Ottavino pitching in the highest leverage situation as possible. And to give you a little hint or a little flyby of what leverage is It's the situations that just determine the game most. So if there's bases loaded with 2 outs, that's going to be the highest leverage situation. Or base loaded with like 2 outs, it's a high leverage situation.
Yeah.
Right. If there's no one on and 2 outs, that's not a high leverage situation. So the more high leverage situations happen to occur when the 3, 4, 5 hitters are up. So if the 3, 4, 5 hitters are up in the 8th inning, I want Adam Ottavino pitching then, not in the 9th. Especially if those 3, 4, 5 hitters are righties, because Adam Ottavino tends to not be as good of a pitcher against lefties as he is against righties. Except the last 2 nights, we've seen Adam Ottavino get a couple lefties out, and he did it pretty successfully, considering his fastball velocity has gone up a little bit. So I think that's a key. His fastball velocity's gone up, and his sliders is nasty as hell, but his slider is going to be more effective against a right-handed hitter than a left-handed hitter. So it's more about his fastball than it is about his slider with the left-handed hitters, which has been very good. So that's good news.
So all in all, it sounds like you're kind of saying almost a platoon closer role, like use situation by situation.
Yes, and the Rockies have done this with other spots in their bullpen this year so far with just matching up lefties and righties. And they have a good mix of lefties and righties. And I think this was Jack Corrigan on 850, I was listening the other day, who said everyone in the NL West that's been good the last few years has had a good mix of lefties and righties coming out of the bullpen, dominant or 2 dominant lefties. And that seems to be a key, and the Rockies have that adding up to success. So I'd like to see them match up lefties and righties and just kind of play to guys' success, which Walt has done really well this year so far.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go with that. I hope they find a way to make it all work to where we don't see any more blown saves, but that probably won't happen.
So, Marco, who's your closer right now?
Well, I can't go with Betancourt just because it's really painful to watch him pitch. So, considering that Ottavino has just come out of nowhere and has really impressed me, I gotta go with Ottavino. I mean, he's awesome.
Yeah, I think that I would have to agree on that, just because watching him tonight, watching that 2-seamer look like Pedro Martinez in the early 2000s, just it's too good not to be there. I mean, I don't see how we couldn't do that. I think that another thing that Walt is doing well is mixing up the lineups, the hitting lineups more so. Marco and I were talking about this earlier about how the leadoff and the 2 and 8 spots were used differently, and who we like there and who we don't like there. I particularly liked Cargo batting 2, followed by Troy and Nolan or Justin in the 4. What do you think, Marco?
I like that too. What I've noticed though in the past couple of years when Tulo and Cargo are batting together is that Tulo seems to get hits very, very consistently. Like he's getting on base a lot. Not that he's not hitting home runs, but he just gets on base a lot. And Cargo seems to me, I've always seen Cargo as a cleanup hitter. So I would like to play him at play Tulo in the 2 hole and then Cargo in the 3 hole, because now, based on the way baseball is running, that is actually the cleanup spot, the 3 hole at this point. But either way, when you have Cargo and Tulo batting back to back, you pretty much can't go wrong.
Well, and see, the thing that I guess I'm more traditional in my lineup setting in that I like Cargo because of his base running speed and ability. So I like to have a guy who can maybe get a stolen base or 2 here and there, and then have Troy hit him in or whatever like that.
And I'm going to guess that's why Walt has been running that lineup up. Yeah. It works really well. I mean,
it's kind of a mix between traditionalists and sabermetrician, but it all starts from the top down. And Charlie Blackmon can be a very good leadoff hitter against right-handed hitters. Or right-handed pitchers. He's not against left-handed pitchers, and that's why they actually tried Corey Dickerson there for 1 game. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised to them to go to Carlos Gonzalez, who's done that before in the leadoff position. But I want my best hitter hitting 2. And so that's probably Carlos Gonzalez against a right-handed pitcher and Troy Tulowitzki against a left-handed pitcher. So I like mixing them in at the 2 spot. The reason you bat your best hitter number 2 is you get more at-bats per season at the 2 spot than the 3 spot. That's just the way a lineup works. And you tend to get about the same amount of guys on base, the same amount of leverage situations, or same leverage situations, because the bottom of the order will come up, and maybe 1 or 2 guys will get on base, and then you want your best on-base guy hitting 1. So if your best on-base guy is hitting 1, and he's got a 400 on-base percentage, you want your next best, you want your best hitter hitting 2 to drive that on-base guy in. It doesn't matter about stealing bases. You just want the number one guy to get in and the number two guy to drive him home.
You talk about the fact that you want the people on the bottom of the lineup getting up to being on base for when those good hitters in your two-hole come up. And I think the biggest thing we're seeing this year that Joe Madden and Walt Weiss are both doing is plugging in the pitcher at the 8-hole so that we can get a good hitter like a LeMahieu in the 9-hole so that he can come up more often on base.
I wouldn't say LeMahieu's a good hitter. I'd say comparatively to a pitcher, he's a good hitter.
And right now, he's doing pretty well.
He's an MVP right now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, obviously, in the long run, we may end up seeing, I don't know, so he'll probably go down.
He'll probably stay at 9, and that works well with him. And batting a pitcher 8 is a smart thing. It's basically a coin flip. I think it's better than batting a pitcher 9, but, sabermetricians have calculated it's about a coin flip difference. It doesn't really matter. And when you're 8 and 9 down there in the lineup, it's not a huge difference. The way you sequence your lineup isn't a huge deal. But when you have a guy batting 8 who's your pitcher and a guy who gets on base batting 9, you can often get a pinch hitter in for that 8 guy, and it gives more pinch hitting opportunities, and then you still have that 9 guy to get on base for the top of the lineup. So I just like the way that works, but basically it's a coin flip of whether it works or not.
See, and that's the thing I think that talking about the lineups like this, being Rockies fans, we're really lucky because our top half of the lineup, it's very good. And I feel like we're nitpicky between who we want at the 2 and the 3 and 4 or whatever. And that the more important questions are the 8 and 9 and I guess even 7. But right now, I'm liking what we're doing. I like that we're trying different things and seeing what fits because I think right now that's all we can do. That's just baseball. You have to find what works. And
trial and error.
Yeah, exactly.
What did Bridich say a million times before the season? We're going to see what we have this year. Well, they're testing them out in different situations to see what they have. And it turns out they've been testing, and the Rockies have been pretty successful so far. The key is just health.
Yeah, and another cool thing about the start of the year so far is that this is probably one of the best starts the Rockies have ever had, if not the best looking start. Just as a team, 7-2 right now in first place by a game in the NL West. Hopefully,
that means we've
sticks.
won more than double the amount of games we've lost. Actually, more than triple the amount of games we've lost.
Yeah, we just keep that up and then make the playoffs and win the World Series. No big deal,
So easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy when you don't have to win 20 straight games in October.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, if we start this strong and then also end strong and then maybe actually play well in between, then we see a good Rocky season completely.
What is this concept? What is this
I know.
concept?
I've never imagined anything like that with the Colorado Rockies.
Before we wrap up the podcast, because I know we're going to wrap it up soon, Mr. Toast Trevor, I got a great question for you guys. Coors Shield or Leather Daddies? I know I got mine, Leather Daddies, because Chris Chrisman, our friend from Purple Row, said it was Leather Daddies. He made that. And Leather Daddies is a reference to Arrested Development. Plus, how awesome would it be to say, see George Fraser say Leather Daddies? Be fantastic.
Among his other phrases.
Oklahoma.
Omaha.
Right. No, he doesn't say Omaha.
I know. I just threw that in
okay,
there.
Peyton.
Yeah.
Okay, Peyton.
I know who that was.
We just can't get through one Rockies thing without talking about the Broncos.
Go Broncos!
Why would we?
Anyways,
Isn't that what this is
Coors
about?
Shield or Leather Daddies? What do we got?
I don't know.
What about mine? $27,700,000 infield.
When you throw that in there, I'm definitely a
Wait,
Leather
is that a
Daddy.
Rent reference?
No, it's a reference to the $100,000 infield that Coney Mack had for the Philadelphia A's in 1912. So, bomb dropped or something like that. Boom.
I don't
Knowledge, yeah.
Knowledge dropped.
I thought of Rent too, so I don't blame you.
Yeah.
But I like Leather Daddies, Marco.
So I have to pick one of the two?
Yes.
Just make one up.
No, I can't.
Fine. You abstain.
I abstain.
Fine.
I wish I could think of one myself.
Fine.
You know what? We're gonna do a challenge where we.
You, the fans, you make up your own.
We couldn't even get anyone to tweet about hashtag RCSNY, so we we don't have any fans.
Yeah.
So you know what?
We are our fans.
Cameron.
I don't think Cameron listens yet. I don't even think Cameron's a fan of this podcast. But Sarah Ford, Rockies zinger, Oprah over there, writer, writes with me over at Rocky Zingers for our Rocky Zingers, Rocky Singery podcast. Listens. She said she was a fan of the show. He was
Cool.
especially a fan of Marco. We
Nice.
just made that up.
Okay.
Okay, I have nothing
No
else
words,
to say.
yeah.
So that's it for the Rocky Zingers, Rocky Singery, RCSNY, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, Ritz, Cook, Spillborghs, Neagle and Young, Rockies podcast, right? That's it? No one else got anything else to say?
I mean, no, I don't think so. We didn't say that the name of it was. Oh, the Tula Whiskey edition.
Yeah, it's-
Yeah, well, it's actually going to be the Road Warriors edition, but I was going to wait to put that in, but I guess we could say that now.
My bad.
You know, I think that it's kind of both. I mean, it's just the Tulo episode Road Warriors
The
edition.
double edition.
Sure.
For 2. Boom! You see that?
Another
You see
mind
that?
knowledge dropping.
Oh, let's just end it. I just walked us off on a double. I'm out.
Jake's out. Marco's out. Trevor's out. Thanks for listening.
You say